ちは返すほど珠玉の愛で絶望さえ
Shaman King! I don't think that's how the Four Kids opening starts, but let's pretend that it is. Hello, this is Craftsdwarf, your host of the Nen Show, here with my co-host Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
Hi, I'm Mathwiz, and I haven't seen the Four Kids opening.
Nobody has. That's not true at all. All right, so before we get to the reading, I want to talk about how we're doing the schedule, basically. So we might be taking a week break somewhere in there, because I think we both have some reasons for that, so it might just be inevitable. Hopefully just, it won't be too long. But anyway, so we are changing up something about our format, where we're taking a brief break from the 90s block. So the reason for that is, like, the Nen Show was originally done so we can do content, basically, like, not just the podcast content, but also, like, channel content, right? Like, obviously, like, it's led to a bunch of our videos, like,
the Talk No Jutsu stuff.
Oh, especially, like, those would be the most notable, is our Naruto and Sasuke videos, which is like, well, this is the first series. Those were the first videos I think we did as a result of the Nen Show, because Naruto was our first series, and we just did, boom, those videos. And then we've done Bleach content. You did, like, your Jobber video that was, like, tying up together a bunch of the series that we've read.
Yep.
You did your Togashi month.
Yep.
Right. So there was, I did my Dragon Ball video, which is now, like, one of my most popular videos on my channel. Just on accident, I was like, oh, sure, I'll just do a Dragon Ball video. What the fuck? So to facilitate that, basically, I guess, like, if we're in a situation where, like, we, like, really feel the need to read something, we might just, like, read it. In this case, Ayakashi Triangle ended a month or so ago now. And it's one of your favorite manga.
Yeah.
It's also not super long. It's so we're basically so now that we finished Shaman King, we're going to take two episodes to read Ayakashi Triangle as an emergency block, basically. And then we're going to do Trigun. And that will also help, I think, because there's been some cases, I think especially with Boruto and Egghead and One Piece, where it's like, there's this, I feel like we're pretty invested in those, I would say, right? Like, One Piece is One Piece, and Boruto is oft maligned continuation to another series that we really, really fucking care about, and also we really, really like Boruto as it is. So we're still gonna wait a bit to do Boruto. Like, it's not an emergency, because the stuff that we'd be discussing has been out for months now. But we are so I think the plan right now is we're gonna do Ayakashi Triangle, then we're gonna do Trigun. It's only gonna be 3 episodes. Then I think we're gonna do Boruto, and then I think would be the patron poll, and then we'll do the next block. And when One Piece Egghead ends, that's probably going to end up somewhere in there as well, if it ends shortly, because there's breaks, and I really don't know how long the arc's going to be. But basically, like, we won't have to, we could just slip it, we might even just slip it in, like, partway through whatever series we're reading, because it's fucking, like, because I know you want to catch up, Mathwiz, to One Piece, and this would be the best opportunity is after Egghead, just because it's going to be wild.
I had a good opportunity after Wano, but it just didn't end up working out. I read a few chapters and then just didn't.
Yeah, things happen.
Ayakashi Triangle is technically a battle shonen. It might be an ecchi, but it's an action series as well.
Yeah, no, I would say, like, well, it's interesting because I'm also reading Ranma 1/2 right now, and Ranma also has a lot of action, but from what I've seen, the action is largely to facilitate the comedy or the romance. So it's kind of hard for me to say it's an action series.
Yeah.
When the action is so secondary to to the jokes and the romance. When in comparison, Ayakashi Triangle, it is an ecchi. And the ecchi is definitely part of even the action in a sense, and just the characters. But, like, the action also has, like, it's more serious and, like, to a degree, so I think it makes sense to me.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I kind of feel like the Nen Show, I feel like it can be, like, for something we've never read before, or, well, I guess you've read Shaman King, but, like, Hitman Reborn, I hadn't read Shaman King. I feel like the discussions can kind of be a bit of a coin flip, because, like, if we haven't read the series, we don't know if we'll click with it or not going in. But, like, a reread of something like, going through One Piece for you or Hunter x Hunter. It's like we know that we're gonna be able to like say more meaningful things, I guess. Whereas like sometimes I feel like, there are things at this point, like I think One Piece and Boruto are kind of like, so Craftsdwarf was hearing some static in my audio. I'm not sure what was going on with my setup. I've messed around with some stuff to try and fix it, but if that keeps happening throughout this discussion, I apologize. I'm not really sure what is causing the issue, but I'll hopefully figure it out. I had to, like, when I was recording the script for the movie video, I had that issue pop up as well in one of the recordings, which was unfortunate.
But anyway, so you were talking about how if we read a series that neither of us have experience with it, that's kind of like a hit or miss as to whether we get into it or not. And honestly, I actually, now that you mention that, I can't think of a series that no, it wouldn't be Bleach, right? Where it's like, I'm just trying to think of what's the last time we actually did a series that we both like had no experience with and we actually walked away from it like liking it a lot. Because like I like Shaman King, don't get me wrong. Like Reborn had some neat stuff. Saint Seiya was okay, but I feel like there hasn't been one that we were both really like, yeah, that was a good fucking series that we both, I don't know. Soul Eater. Was it?
Well,
was another good one?
I had experience with Soul Eater.
Oh, that's true. Never mind. Yeah, that.
Even when we went through Bleach, I don't think we were huge on it at the time.
No, that's true. It's a lot of my appreciation for it has come like since then, like rereading it especially. Like I think I gave it a 7 still, but yeah, we definitely could have been more. But yeah, no, I feel
Had
like most of the series.
Had you read Ashita no Joe before?
Yes, a couple times actually.
Okay. So it feels like a lot of our better discussions are like at least one of us has experience, because like
for sure,
then that person can kind of make some observations that maybe or have a little more context on the material. But yeah, like I think Boruto is kind of Boruto and One Piece at this point are kind of things that it's new material to us when we're going through it, or at least me, but like it's established itself already.
Yes, well, especially I think the next Boruto reading in particular is going to be stuff that because it's okay, like there's going to be like a few chapters early on that I've technically watched, but most of it is going to be new stuff for me. So, but I'm sure I'm going to like it. Like it's Boruto.
So is that material not in the anime yet?
No, the anime ended shortly into this arc that we're going to read next, basically.
Oh, okay.
So they never finished the code arc, basically, because of production issues and so they ended it where they found a way to end it, I suppose, but it's definitely like they're it is what it is. But yeah, I'm looking and we've enjoyed a lot of the series we've discussed, but we haven't really loved anything that we went through for the first time. But anyway, Ayakashi Triangle is a series that we both have experience for. So I guess like if you haven't read it yet, as far as like reading it along with the Nen Show, we are probably going to end up bringing up something because it's only 2 episodes of the Nen Show. So I'd recommend just reading it in full before the discussion, because even though we're discussing the first half, we're going to have the second half in mind because we've both read it. Which that might be. Wait, I don't think we've done no Dragon Ball. No, wait, have you read? You hadn't read Dragon Ball, had you?
No, not the manga, but I had seen.
But you've gone through the anime. Yeah. So since Dragon Ball, because and as far as other manga goes, you would have watched Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho as well, even if you hadn't read them. So
it's kind of like the Nen Show got me into reading manga. Right? I feel like at all.
So this is the first time we're reading a manga that not only you've read before, but also I've read before. So at both of us at the same time, rather. But, right? Because I've read some of these manga before, but this is the first one that you've read before, and then the first one we've both gone through as well, in full. Because I think, as far as other stories go, Dragon Ball, Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, but I hadn't gone through Naruto in full when we read it, so. So yeah, it should be interesting because it will be a little different in that way, going through Ayakashi, and also it's very recent. That was another reason another thing we thought was it, because we were talking about it and we realized, you tweeted it out even, where it's like as far as start dates for manga, the most recent ones are Dragon Ball Super and Boruto, which are sequels, but other than that, it's fucking Fairy Tail, which was 2006. That's 15 years old, now. Like, we haven't, like, Ayakashi Triangle will by far be the most recent, like, the newest started series that we'll have read, basically. Because obviously, content-wise, like, One Piece and Boruto have had stuff that, we talked about from very recently. But, it's just an interesting, it'll be, I guess, I don't know, it might end up being pretty different as far as Nen Show stuff goes. But, yeah, we'll see. Oh, and was that all we had to say about Ayakashi coming up and the schedule?
I think for now, yeah.
Okay. The other thing I was going to say is because I was going to read or suggest we read Flowers, which would have been after Ayakashi Triangle, but then I found out that apparently that the magazine that it was in like ended serialization, like the whole magazine. So after that I definitely became less inclined to want to read it because it's very likely that it's not Shaman King Flowers on its own is unfinished. And I know there's like all the others, I was talking about the other spinoffs, and there's also the Superstar, which is the still ongoing one. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read those on my own at my own pace. And if I think it will be a good Nen Show discussion, we'll come back to it. But then, which I don't know that it's going to happen. But it's an option. But at least for the time being, we will. This is the last Shaman King reading. This is the last that we're going to be discussing on this channel as a full thing. So, yeah. And to that note, we're also we're stopping at chapter 300 because after that, the last volume is basically mostly just building into Flowers with we see Hana, and it goes into that. If we discuss Flowers, I will be sure to we'll just read and discuss the rest of volume 35 as well.
Yeah.
But we're probably not going to discuss much more than chapter 300 here. So yeah. So yeah. Overall thoughts on the reading before we get into discussing it, and hopefully finding more appreciation for it like we did last time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the circumstances surrounding this manga's conclusion are not ideal. Mm-hmm. But this does kind of feel like one of the rare shonen manga that didn't really keep my interest to the end. I feel like even though I like Shaman King more than previous things we've read, I feel like with a lot of those, I had a pretty consistent feeling of meh throughout, or liking it but not loving it. Whereas Shaman King, I felt like in the earlier readings, there was stuff I was clicking with more. And then kind of I feel like in these last two, getting further into the shaman fight format and things having to kind of get wrapped up quickly and certain details getting glossed over. I still enjoy it, and I like some of the things about the final reading here. But yeah, overall it's just kind of I don't feel like I like it as much as I was expecting initially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of feel that. And it's a really interesting manga. Especially whatever the fuck happened. Oh no, Jump. We're they're oh my god, we're only the second most subscribed to Shounen magazine. We need to sacrifice some goats to devils or something. And I don't know what they fucking did, but they attracted some really interesting series. And I think I think the stuff coming out at this time period is just so fascinating. And even Shaman King, right? Because I think Reborn ultimately we didn't love, but it was still an interesting manga. Mm-hmm. Obviously we really like the big three and Hunter x Hunter, which are all just phenomenal stories. And Shaman King is really interesting to me because I feel like there's so many various similarities to especially Naruto, Bleach, and Hunter x Hunter. I feel I was bringing up the anticlimax last time, and they kind of they explained that, or I clicked with that here of why it's anticlimactic in a sense, and then it ends with a kind of Talk no Jutsu-esque climax, right? With everyone they're not there was even one of the extras where the Takei is wait, did I just write this whole manga and Yo and Hao never fought once? Right? And because that never happens. They never actually clash blades at all. And then, like, I was thinking about, like, Bleach with, even aside from just the general metaphysical, like, spirit aspect, but just, like, how being lonely. I've been thinking about Eyes, I don't know, I'm rereading Bleach next year, and, like, I'm making a video, like, following up on my Eisen video. So he has loneliness as an aspect of his character as well. So, you know, that came to mind. And then, so it's just, like, I'm just seeing various things that I also recognize in these other stories that I like. And I kind of wish that I really liked the more, like, I don't know, Shaman King as a whole more. And maybe it is a big part of it is because of the production of it, and just, you know, him having to make these concessions, and, because of his health, which is really unfortunate, you know. Like, I don't know, I just wish I clicked with it more emotionally, because I do think it's really cool and interesting, and it is different. I feel like if it was a series I, like, maybe read with my current mindset, like, especially if I read it in, like, 2018, when I was really like, oh, I'll watch a thing, oh shit, that was interesting, I'll make a video on it. Like, if I read it at that point, I think it would have, like, been way more, like, cool to me. But it's either, like, a mixture of, like, maybe I'm just missing something, like, you know, with Bleach, I was able to, like, look up or discuss with people and find the Buddhism that I was missing, or with this series I haven't, like, looked into it yet, and so maybe I'm missing some things. And then and then a lot of the other things that are cool about it, it's also like, oh yeah, like, they end it talking to the main antagonist instead of fighting him, you know, kind of like how Naruto, you know, I mean, it's not really like Naruto necessarily, but it just it makes me think of it. Or, like, you know, it being anticlimactic. Well, it's like, well, what about Hunter x Hunter? You know, it's just like I just think about these other series instead, even though it was coming out at the same time. Like, that's kind of what's interesting about it, is that, like, it was doing similar things, possibly in some ways even before it, right? Like, we'd have to, you know, I think someone I did see a comment, I think, of someone pointing out how, like, the rescue arc, I think the Tao rescue arc was actually slightly after the Zoldyck one, I think, but it's still, like, you know, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that, like, you know, it also kind of has a thing where, like, Yo's sort of goal at the outset is, like, well, maybe not his initial goal, like, he just wants to live a relaxed life, but, you know, the whole thing of the Shaman King, it's like, none of the protagonists become the Shaman King. Whereas it's like, you know, Naruto's like, I'm going to be Hokage, or One Piece, like, Luffy is going to find the One Piece and be this big pirate captain. And, you know, so it's like, it's definitely different in its conclusion.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, obviously there is more to go, but I'll see how I feel about that, because I have my read order for it. I have it all, you know, it's I don't know, it's for some reason it doesn't seem that long, even though it is actually like 20 plus volumes, but I feel it's divided into shorter, you know, like, here's 2 volumes of this, here's 4 volumes of that. So, yeah.
I did also think, like, some comments that were, that we got earlier on about kind of like, the Buddhism in Shaman King, and, like, what some of the characters kind of represented, and then, like, getting to the ending where it feels like a lot, at least some of that I feel like was just stated outright, and so I feel like, yeah, maybe having that context, and then, like, getting to it and seeing how it plays out, I think was insightful.
Yeah. I don't know, because maybe it's a personal thing, but I do notice sometimes, because, like, I like analyzing things, I like pointing out things that people don't notice or haven't noticed before. And so, like, when I'm having, like, an observation and the series then proceeds to state that observation outright, there's a level at which I go, like, oh, okay. You know, because it's like I remember, especially the one I read a manga called Liar Game, and, like, one of the main characters, his mom died, and he was helping out the other main character, and I was like, oh, he's helping her because she reminds him of his mom. And then a character's like, yeah, you're helping her because she reminds you of your mom. And I'm like, well, okay, never mind. It just feels kind of like it's taking the rug out for me under a bit, stealing my thunder a little bit. But that's just a personal thing. Like, because that's the other thing, is because I think the manga is also similar in some ways to things I like, but also uniquely different, right? Like, you know, it is unique and it is cool. So I think I kind of understand if someone says it's like their favorite series, right? Like, like your tweet, you mentioned, like, you'd absolutely recommend it to someone who likes a battle series, right? And I agree. I think it's absolutely worth a read. It's just like, I don't know, again, something's just missing there personally for me. In that it just doesn't click. Like, I don't enjoy it in the same way I enjoy a lot of these other series that come to mind instead of Shaman King, where maybe if I read it first, because that's another thing I've been thinking about, because I think Alexander had a tweet about how, like, he's just imagining if he watched Hunter x Hunter for the first time now, and how like every episode would fucking blow his mind. And I was thinking about how like I think maybe that's true, but also I think like when we find a favorite, like it shapes our tastes, and in some ways maybe even who we are. Like I think a lot of the things I like are probably because I like One Piece. Like I've talked about it. I think it was on the Weeb Club. Maybe it was here, but I realized like it's other things I was going through at the same time, like Aikatsu or Plunderer or Muv-Luv, where it's like, oh, I like it when something can be like really, really smart and have just really like insightful ideas or interesting like literary things going on, but also just be really, really fucking stupid and have these things like working together. Like Aikatsu is really like, it's dumb, but it's really intelligent about the ways it's being done. And I realized, wait, it's just One Piece. Like, fuck. You know, like I was like, oh man, I realized something about my taste, and it's like, oh, I just like One Piece, that's it. Like that's just never mind. You know, so it, you know, just stuff like that is, you know, so I was just wondering, like, so maybe if Alexander or you know, never found Hunter x Hunter, like maybe, yeah, if you found it now, you'd really, really love it. Or maybe it'd be like with Shaman King, where it's like, well, because we didn't find it earlier into our like histories. And that's the thing, I did read it years ago, but I didn't really like it. So, you know, actually when I read it, I hadn't gone through Bleach or Hunter x Hunter or you know, Naruto or, like it was just basically just One Piece, but, I don't know, it just didn't click with me back then, but I was also angry and stupid back then, so, you know, but,
I think for me, kind of overall thoughts on Shaman King, I think the one thing for me that kind of, and like maybe someone could explain kind of why the structure is the way it is and how it like plays into the ideas or the, you know, what Shaman King is kind of going for. But I feel like for me, the fact that it is, you know, it's like all the shaman fight, like even the part before it is like the preliminaries. And I think in some ways that structure didn't hit for me, because like there are plenty of things that happen outside of the tournament, but it's still all leading into it's all tied into the tournament. And so it didn't feel like, you know, like in like a Naruto or something like that, or it's like, okay, here's the Land of Waves arc, and then there's a break point, and here's the tuning exams arc. And I feel like Shaman King doesn't have that. It just goes.
No, I think that makes sense, because like with the arc structure, you do have this like build up release. With Shaman King, there's so much the individual victories kind of, that you don't really get that level of build up and release, because it's like, okay, they just do a fight, and then like, and obviously like even before we actually get to the big tournament, we meet Hao, right? So like early on, we do have that build up and release, because it's like, oh yeah, Yo did it. He made it into the Shaman fight. He can actually compete in the tournament, right? And then, but like I feel like once you get Hao, it's like, okay, like maybe less so in the first reading, just because he is more mysterious. But like I remember, you know, once we got into the tournament proper, it's like, yeah, he's literally the main antagonist, and also he's just this colossal like mountain that's utterly insurmountable. Like even in the last arc, they're like, okay, yeah, if we combine our mana, we are still not even fucking close to Hao. Like even with they have the great spirits, they have they've died and come back to life so many times, and it's like, we are still not even fucking close to this guy. So it's like, you know, so the way that the manga ends, like again, it is unique and cool, but it just, it does kind of lack that arc structure and just gradual like build up and release, because, you know, and so I can see that, especially if we like that structure, right? Like we structured the Nen Show around it, I would even say, right? So that might be an issue.
Arc by arc.
Exactly, right, because we're discussing it on those build up and releases, and Shaman King really didn't have that, so maybe that's another reason it didn't click with us, because we just happen to really like that angle, and Shaman King isn't that. And again, that's another way it's unique and different. Maybe not unique, because I feel like with series that are like, I think, oh god, I can't remember the ones that people bring up, but tournament structures in general, I guess, are going to be more of these individual fights rather than the over, like, you know, an over, you know, so I don't know, because there is other stuff going on too, but it also has that more like on and off kind of like, boom, here's a thing. It's even if it's not within the tournament structure, it's still just the same kind of like, boom, here's a thing, boom, here's a thing, and then it comes and goes, kind of like once you get Pat into the actual shaman fight, basically. Pretty much the last time, honestly, maybe one of the only individual like arcs in the series that has that build-up release would be the rescue arc, the Tao one in China. That would be the only time that, because like before that you have a bunch of individual fights, and even like when they're going to the Patch Tribe place in America, it's still a bunch of individual arcs, right? Like, or smaller conflicts, basically, instead of like one big, thing. So, but yeah, anyway, good preamble at least. So we'll get into the actual reading. But yeah, first off, they're hanging out, bathing, chilling after they're fighting, recovering, and sort of talking about. Oh yeah, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say there's kind of a cool moment with Ren, where like he's talking to Yo, and Yo's like, it's not that you're weaker, it's just like it's just your mental state. If you're impatient, things only get worse. And Ren, who he's usually like impatient and kind of hot-headed, he's just like, you're right, and just kind of sits back down. And yeah, I thought that was a cool moment.
No, yeah, Ren going from like angry boy to just chilling out quite a bit. Like gaining confidence too. Like if you see that loudness as like, he's being loud because he has something to prove, and now it's like he still has those same feelings, but he's able to like have a cooler exterior. Like that's he's gets a lot of cool moments like that. And then Hal is just like, hey, he just does that like last time with the coffee, and now with the bathing, he's just like, yeah, I'll just hang out with you guys. Like there's, it is kind of interesting how, like even last time you had Opacho and Lucas, who just kind of like are having a meeting with Jian and the X-Laws and all the main characters, and just like, they're like a lot of times they're at each other's throats, but then like there's even the stuff with like Blocken and Mikihisa, who are just like, we're enemies, but now we're just fucking sharing food, because the situation is out of our control, and so yeah, just it's neat. But yeah, I didn't want to bring it up last time because I actually did remember it, but there's the part, how associates all the characters with one of the 5 elements. Because it's like, oh yeah, you guys will get the great spirits. Because I was like trying to talk about it without talking about it last time, but yeah, it's a thing. Or high spirits, excuse me. The great spirit is a different thing. You also have Lyserg chilling out a bit too, where he's like, I'm going to defeat you. Cherish the days you have left. So in the meantime, you can take a bath with us. And everyone's just like, wait, huh? And also just like Hal's power move of just like, hey, horror, if you don't chill out, I will tell everyone who you are like. And he's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's cool little like foreshadowing, because it feels like a little one-off joke in the moment, and then later in the reading, which like we're getting to that point where I'm not sure what all was part of the original run of Shaman King and what was like the extra chapters drawn in after, but like that little interaction, I think it kind of sets up later that like, oh, that's kind of important to who Horror is.
Yes. So I was going to talk about that because like, so I want to point out first that memory is infallible, or is very fallible, not the opposite of infallible, in fact. See, my words are also fallible. But anyway, because like I had a couple moments of confusion because I was pretty sure that either, because even then so the original manga ended, and apparently there was a final, the original final chapter. I don't know if I've actually seen that final chapter, because what I remember when I first finished Shaman King, the last chapter of those originally like 29 volumes, because we see it later where Anna goes to Mu with the Sphinx, with Anna Hole, and there's the Sphinx with like the snorkel on it, and I think they have the golem too. I remember that being the last chapter of the original run, but in this one it was like several volumes into the Kazenban, and it also like, so there might have been some either I'm misremembering, or there was some rearranging going on, which I think is because like also if I think the Kazenban was only like 3 volumes long, so the original Shaman King only ended at 32, but did did it end partway through the patch invasion? I don't remember, because in my mind the original manga ended with the tournament stuff and like this reading with where they're fighting the battleships. I think that was this reading, right? Yeah. With how I like, and then I feel like the plant invasion was Kazenban, but I could easily be misremembering. Because I think one thing I definitely misremembered is I thought I remembered this fight with Silva being earlier, but I think it was mixing up him, because he came in earlier and then later on they did their actual fight against Silva. So I think that was just straight up misremembering. So I'd have to do a dive into it and like compare like the original Kazenban and the original manga, plus the original manga ending with the changed chapter that goes into the Kazenban. So it's like, so there's like 3 different versions of some of these chapters, at least one of these chapters. So but yeah, I would imagine at least like Horohoro's backstory is probably in mind since the beginning. You know, so
Yeah.
But yeah, the shaman fight is ending with they're going to a hidden continent, and they also talk about how like you know, outside powers are interested in what's going on, and how just openly states like, yeah, he's going to become, you know, the Great Spirit and destroy mankind.
Yay!
Yay! That's the reaction. But yeah, Hao enlists Yo and friends to stop Monta's dad, with of course, you know, since with the caveat that they're not going, or keep killing as, you know, as little as possible.
What should we do, Yo? What should we do, Ren? It's like, why would I know?
Mikisa has a talk with Ludsev, who still wants to fight. But yeah, we get the lineup as everyone's gonna face down the ships, and yeah, we basically just get a cool action sequence of I don't know, it's kind of neat to see the intersection of like the fantastical hidden reality with you know, an actual like militaristic faction of just you know, fucking warships, and they have some shamans too, like a giant fucking mech in the sniper. Trying to think of anything specific to say about it. Oh, it didn't even last that long. Never mind.
You know, I guess you get that little moment where, like, the antagonist and the protagonist do a team up. It's like, oh, the twins, they're fighting together.
Yeah, got one of those. It's cool. Oh, yeah, there's also, like, Anna talking about how, like, in some ways fighting people without shaman powers is worse than fighting, like, Hao. Or they say they're soulless weapons, you know, like the missiles and stuff. And it's just like, and especially because like, you know, the series has that element of like, you know, humanity has its issues, so these weapons are basically like without soul, and they're kind of like the problems of humanity given physical form in a sense, I guess. War, of course. God, and like they have the line in there about how's 100 years living as a human were worse than the 900 he's lived in hell. So it's just like, yeesh, they're just really harsh. Maybe not wrongfully so, but more just very what's the word? Yeah, it's something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they get down there for the tournament, and everyone drops out, and Hao is crowned king. We got our first fight, Lucas versus Marco rematch. How did you feel about this one?
I'm not sure if I felt particularly strongly about it either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like, you know, there were some cool things about it, because like at first I was actually kind of like vibing with Lucas' like philosophy more so than Marco's, because Marco seemed like really absolute and unbending, and Lucas was talking about how like, you know, Hao had his own sense of justice, and that's what he like latched onto, and you know, he was like gathering these outcasts, you know, and like, so there's like a positivity that like, you know, he has a line like, it is men who prevail, but then it turns out that Marco, his justice did change, and he's sort of like, he basically took Lucas, you know, it's like, I think there's like the love-hate dichotomy there, with like Lucas changed his justice out of hatred and, you know, negative feelings, but Marco changed in a more you know, positive way, so he's able to like sort of see Lucas's side, but you know, yeah, but then also like both of them like there's the, you know, them being adults, and also like in some ways not being able to change, because like, you know, I think Yo talks about how, like, if you guys both see that there are shades of gray, and, you know, that you don't have to be so extreme, then why is it that you both have to die? Because, like, they ultimately do go into that extreme for their atonement and stuff. Yeah, it was neat. I mean, definitely one of the neater ones, because some of these fights definitely, like, I didn't feel much for. But yeah, they get the first fight with Silva, and they sort of break down the plant structure. It felt very Saint Seiya to me. I don't know if you specifically remembered Saint Seiya or if you thought of anything, just with the, like, they have to go to a place in a certain time period, and to get there they have to go through 10 different, like, areas. I was like, I feel like there's at least, like, 2 Saint Seiya arcs that have that exact same kind of structure.
Yeah, I definitely remember it with, like, Sanctuary.
Yeah, because I think, was that the one with the burning clock? Probably, maybe it was another one. But yeah, I just remember that being a thing, and I was just like, oh, okay. First one, we got a Ryu fight. Snakes, Battle of Snakes, I guess, yeah. And yeah, he's got the, like, I guess another angle of, like, them being younger is because they can change and grow. So Namari is, like, calculating them and analyzing them, but he can't predict them growing and changing, so he isn't able to, like, adapt, basically. I guess it is kind of like putting, you know, like, because if that was an idea of the Marco Lucas fight, was, you know, changing and, you know, the younger ones being able to change more and see the, you know, compromise in a sense. So I don't know, this one is sort of like putting that into play a bit with the younger ones actually able to changing and do things unexpected. So then we cut back to Anna for a bit after. Did you nothing to say on that fight?
Not particularly.
Yeah, a couple of the fights are like that for sure. There we go, back to Anna. Like, there's the page where it's like, Manta's with his dad, and it's like, nope, his dad's captured. And there's like a romance between the sniper guy and the spooky lady, and I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, that okay, all right, sure.
Yeah, it's like, unless they showed up before, which I don't think they did, just like
no,
two
they literally showed
characters.
up in just the fight. I'm pretty sure they were just in that one fight with the battleship. That was it. So yeah, it was kind of odd, but yeah, you have all of Howe's men coming out.
I mean,
in their,
I guess like that bit, even if it was pretty short, like it does tie into the whole thing of like overcoming hate with love.
That's true. Because yeah, they see the end of their dream, and yeah, they go into love. That's fair. And yeah, after that we get Howe's guys coming in, and it's like, yeah, the fighting's over. There's no point in continuing the conflict when they're just outsourcing it to the plant, basically, the patch plant. And then we get Braun, the big guy. Oh yeah, that brings up the patch song, which, you know, the lyrics are very much, you know, reducing themselves as individuals in exchange for, like, their ultimate purpose and the great spirit. Like, no good or bad in the world, we are all lost in the end. So, and yeah, it's another fight where sort of like, you know, the villain just gets tricked by something unexpected, which was, in this case, it was the bulletproof glasses. And there's the line about how, like, you know, if you get shot in your bulletproof glasses, your nose is still going to break from the force. So like, wait, like, I didn't, that just, I don't know, thought it was notable. It's just an interesting thing to point out. Yep. Then there was another fight with Magna, the owl guy. Oh wait, it ended before I even realized it. Hold on, let me go back. But yeah, they realized Obucho can read minds. I guess I didn't really get that much out of the fight, though. I'm trying to look back over and see if there's something I could pick up on it, but I'm not.
Yeah, I think a lot of the initial fights weren't doing, I don't know, they weren't clicking for me, but I do think when it gets closer to the, like, you know, as the fights kind of go on, I think the later ones resonate a bit more.
Also, yeah, my bad, the fight wasn't over yet, because the stealthy owl guy basically Ren figured out how to move as fast as lightning, so he could, even if he couldn't detect him, he'd just zap him before when he got close, basically. So yeah, Hao meets an alien who's actually just a person in a mask, but I mean, there's still aliens involved, as we come to find out.
I liked the little like remix chapters that were focusing on like how Mikisa met Yo's mom. Like there were kind of a couple of those.
Oh yeah. It was with yes, those were cute. Yeah, I was watching them get together and him be like, "Oh God, I'm poor and she's super rich," and yeah, and then he's just doing music and yeah. But yeah, then we get the fucking Radim, the announcer. Ludzef breaks into Hao's chamber. Doesn't go well for him,
to put it lightly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I also liked when, like, how that sort of sequence of them breaking in, like when it goes to the next chapter, and it's like, okay, the golem can still move, we're fine, and then it's like, we're already dead.
Yeah, that was rough when that happened, because like, yeah, there's a little bit of fight before that with Goldva using his oversoul, but it's like, yeah, just the boom, they're dead. Because
Yeah,
it's like, it's
I think
Hao.
the way like this series is kind of interesting in how it portrays death, because like, characters can get revived. So I do think in some of these fights, it like, a character gets hit with an attack and it's like, oh my god, they're dead. But I do think that like in cases like this, like with the kids or with like the three girls, I think it like parts of how certain deaths are portrayed, I think are pretty chilling. Like, when you're following the three girls in the last reading and it's like, oh, they're alive, but it's like, no, we're already dead. I think just that kind of like suddenness or like suspension of, I don't know how to describe it, but
well, it's like,
it's interesting.
Because I mean, I was talking about the death fake outs before, like with Basin, where he was like, help me, and he's like, oh, wait, I'm a spirit, I can't die, and like, what the fuck, why are you like this? But this is, yeah, it's like the reverse, where it's like you see a character and you expect them to be alive because you're used to seeing them alive, they don't look any differently, but it's like, oh shit, I'm dead. It's like it hits you in a different way, right? Compared to like, it's like a reverse death fake out. It's like, oh hey, it's a life fake out. Shit, that's exactly what it is.
Because it's like, I think it makes sense for the like the main characters, like, Ren and the others at this point have died how many times, but like, the first time is still like, at least the first time is still can be like a traumatic experience. Like, oh wait,
right. And also like a big thing that they talk about is just having the mana and to revive people. Like, Jian, she ran out of healing, so she stayed behind at this point. And then like, Radim kills Faust, and it's like, oh fuck, now what are we gonna do? We can't revive anyone anymore. So it's just so with characters like that, like Hanagumi or the kids, it's like,
Hanagumi, that's what they are.
Yes, the three girls, yeah. It's like, well, okay, even if they can be revived, like, do the characters have the resources to do so, right? So there is this like, they like with all the patch guys, they have to kill these people, right? Like, aren't they? Yeah, they're killing them. And like, because I remember, actually, now I think about it, that was a whole big thing before with Ludsev and not Ludsev, Lyzerg, and Yo not wanting to kill, and shit, I didn't actually think about that at all, because did that not come up? I guess with death being as impermanent as it is, I guess like killing doesn't have the weight it did anymore. So, but I just hadn't thought about that in regards to like, what does it mean for Yo as a character, or like his arc, that he's killing, that they're killing people now, and he's like, it's not the worst thing ever, I guess. And they also do establish that like Hao and the golem aren't necessarily like destroying the souls, like they're still possible to like we even see the Lily Rara, I think, the lady they met in America, like she comes in at the end, even though her and her ancestors all had their souls destroyed, because like, they're not truly destroyed, they just become part of the great spirit of fire, and not, so it's not like Bleach, where when the Quincy's destroy souls, they're just fucking gone for good, which is kind of how it was established. So yeah, I don't know, I just remember that felt like a very big part of the series for the time, and now it's just kind of become back secondary. So I don't know, I just hadn't thought about it before.
I do kind of like, I mean, obviously Faust still sticks around, like he ends up integrating with Yo. Or
go ahead, finish your thought.
Well,
sorry.
I mean, like, now I'm kind of thinking on it, and like with some of these characters, like, like one of the comments, I forget who, but then it also comes up later in the ending, like, like the death of the self and death of the, that Buddhism is like, I'm probably gonna butcher this, but like a cycle of like killing the self and like
death and rebirth, right?
Yeah. So like, even like this moment with Faust, I like, because it's almost like, yes, he ends up coming back, or well, not coming back. He doesn't really ever leave. But like with integrating with Yo, it's like he's not Faust as an individual anymore, maybe, because like now he's like serving someone else.
I mean, I have thoughts about Faust in general. So I was gonna let you finish. Well, one thing I will say about that is I like, because I don't think soul integration has been used since like the first reading. So I thought it was really cool to see that mechanic again because it had been so long. Because like it's not quite like, early gag stuff, Hitman Reborn coming into play like way later, but it has that same vibe of just like it's there when it was there when the series was different from what it is now, and had kind of been buried, and now it's back. I do like that thing. But Faust in general, it's like, because you mentioned, him becoming more of like less of a character and more of just like a guy who's doing like he's a medic. He's there to heal them, and right, and like so there was even one of the posts. You might have missed it because it was in one of the extra chapters, and we didn't. I read everything in the last volume except for the chapter of flowers because I thought it was chapter 1. Like it was a preview for the next series, and then I actually compared it to the actual chapter 1 of Flowers, and I was like, no, this is a different thing. So when I read Flowers, I'm probably going to reread all those chapters, the rest of volume 35 after 300. But in there was basically explaining what happened with Faust, and so basically what happens is that like people tried to bring him back to life, but he just didn't give a shit, and he basically wanted to move on to the afterlife with Eliza. Like he wanted to stay with Eliza forever, right? Which has been his motivation since the beginning. Like the reason he was carrying around her corpse and using it for his oversoul was because he loved this woman. So like the whole reason he learned necromancy was because he was so attached to this one person who died. And
then even when he, concludes that fight, he's like, at last I can truly be with you. And like holding out the skull.
Yeah, and but like I guess I don't know, my kind of hang up with that is because like it was framed as like Faust, he's a child, he hasn't grown up in a sense, he hasn't learned to accept loss, and so like that was kind of sidestepped in the shaman fight because Anna was able to bring Eliza's soul back, and so he could be with her while alive. But I don't know. I guess it's just kind of like it just rubs me the wrong way a little bit because he never grew up. He never accepted loss, and he just like he lived to the point that he was sort of like, yeah, I'd rather be dead. Like I just don't. As someone who's like I think we both had some major losses in our lives within the last few years, right? So just having I don't know. I just can't agree with that. I guess because it's like. That's just I understand that like this character loves this person so much, and maybe there's like a romantic beauty to that, but it's also like I don't know, I just can't, I couldn't vibe with it, so I was kind of just like, because I think it's so easy, like we kind of did it with Dragon Ball, maybe a bit too much of just like, oh, this character was here in the beginning, why aren't they getting important stuff later? And like with Dragon Ball, it's also like, well, these characters from early on in the series aren't really that interesting. Like the characters who come in later are just way more like I like the characters in the like Vegeta and Piccolo Jr.
Not as good of a fit for how the story has evolved.
For sure. Like right. Like Tien is he has some good stuff, but like after the fucking after he beats Cyborg Tao Pai Pai, it's like, okay, well, what more of his character is there to really explore? Right?
Yeah.
Like even though he could be doing stuff in Dragon Ball Z in the Z material, but it's like it doesn't feel necessary, like knowing like because I just don't see what with his character that could be explored really, and so and if Toriyama feels the same way, felt the same way, then it makes sense as to why that character would be abandoned, So in this case, you have character like Ryu here is still here doing stuff. But like he and Faust are definitely more minor compared to the other ones, so I don't mind that. Like because again, it's like well, and even then, like I think like Ryu gets a fight, and he's his happy place, and like he's still like fighting for his friends. So like the fact that he's come so far from being like a chapter 1 goon is really cool, right? But with Faust, it's just like I guess a personal disagreement with like the ideas of his character and how they're sort of like handled, right? Because I guess I understand that like life and death, like especially at this point in the story, like maybe aren't that big of a deal, but I don't know, I feel like that because like one of the messages I get out of the series, because Monta has this line about our journey will outlive us all, which I basically feels like and maybe there's more Buddhism there, but also like I don't know, because what I got about because it also adds to the anticlimax a bit of just like it's not about with Hunter x Hunter it's not about the journey, it's about or the destination, it's more about the detours along the way. Like what in this case it's more of a like it's not about the ending, which in Buddhism would be reaching nirvana. It's about the struggle of doing it and finding it. Maybe you could also compare it to like Sisyphus and the boulder, right? Like Yo doesn't become the Shaman King. He doesn't get the boulder to the top of the mountain, but he's enjoying his life of pushing that boulder, of being alive, basically. And so, and which again, it also fits with the anticlimax and like why a lot of, because again, I could bring it before, and the way the manga ends without like Yo and Hao really fighting. Like they have like maybe a brief clash in the fight last like cut when they bring out their spirit, the 5 spirits, but it's like, that's it. So I think it works in that case, but like, I don't know, Faust, he's a character who he didn't find enjoyment, like, of like, he loved this one person so much he'd rather be dead. And I kind of I just don't like that. I think that's really just it. So, because he doesn't enjoy pushing the boulder of being alive while this person he loves is dead. He didn't accept that loss, and it just doesn't. I couldn't get into it. So.
No, I think that's fair. I think like for me with Faust, I definitely felt like with that initial fight with Yo, I thought there was like really interesting like setup for the character there, and that fight. Probably one of my favorite fights in the series because I think it had a good ideological clash between the two. But yeah, I feel like if Faust had a chance to be like in my top characters, I don't really have much to say beyond that first reading. I feel like
I think it's like he works really well as an antagonist, but as a protagonist, I feel like he just doesn't like. I just don't like where his character ends up or how his general arc goes. To the point that I can say I really like him as a protagonist. So he's almost like, again, to bring up another Dragon Ball comparison, he's kind of like the opposite of like Vegeta or Piccolo for me, or Piccolo Jr. for me, where it's like, as antagonists, they're really good, but where I really like those characters is when they become protagonists, right? Like after the Budokai where Piccolo Jr. fights Goku, or after the Saiyan Saga where Vegeta fights Goku. Like, after that, that's really when their characters take off. Where with Faust, it's like the opposite, where he's better as an antagonist for me. So, and that said, I will point out, because I brought up the remix chapter where we saw those other necromancers. So there's probably going to be other Faust-related stuff in the side material somehow. So maybe, Takei will have the chance to like bring me back around on his character. But just from this original run of the manga, I couldn't vibe with it. So, or maybe even just other necromancer stuff. I don't know. So yeah, unfortunate. Because it does have the God, now I'm getting even more like baffled because he has the Funbar Hot Springs song, which is like we worked so hard and we built it, and it's almost like it's about like pushing that boulder, but I don't know, it just maybe Faust isn't the character to sing it. It's weird. I just can't get into it. I don't know. It's something. It's just not clicking with me. Yo beats Radim with love, not hate. There's a hug. And also I forgot, because I think maybe Na'avidya is like the nothingness, I guess, avoid, or because I remember that being a concept of Buddhism. Like a meditation, I think, is part of that, where it's like clearing your mind, right? Like achieving a mental state of nothingness, where it's actually really fucking hard. I don't think I could do it, or at least not with a lot of practice of just literally thinking about nothing. But I don't know, I like the 2-page spread of it's just the words Na'avidya, basically, of just the nothingness, right? So it's like, I've heard there's even like a piece of art it's just an empty canvas, and it's called the same thing, Na'avidya, because it's just a blank, it's not literal nothingness, right? So what's the best way to get that across? There's too much text on these 2 pages. I did just like, find it amusing when Ryu's like, Faust, and he's like, I'm his ghost, and he's like, Faust. He throws the body away. I don't know. But anyway, we get the who's this next officiant? This is the Horo fight, which is it's probably one of the best fights from this stretch, for sure. Because there's the first fight, especially for the flashback, because like, he's just like, as far as the officiants go, he's definitely what like cares the most about them, even though he's ultimately fighting against them. He's similar to Silva in that sense, but just, I guess he's Horohoro's Silva, which is also true because he's also Horohoro's officiant. But that also just factors into like how he treats the gang, basically. Because he gives them some rest and recuperation. You were saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's definitely also like leading into the fight, like there's some talk where like Anna is it feels very kind of like, in a way, meta commentary on the series. Like, it's weird. Normally warriors go off to fight the demon in order to save the princess, but Yo wants to save the demon.
Princess How. Yeah, it's such because like it's Princess How is the volume cover. I'm pretty sure it was even referenced earlier in like one of the remixes, and I was like, what? I don't get it.
Yeah, and then there's like a remix chapter that is like taking the conflict and turning it into like a little adventurers like
Dragon Quest
save the princess.
Yes, and like giving them a little character profiles and like what class they would be, and Yo's
And
the
how
hero,
is it-
of course.
Save me if you dare. It's like, does she want to be saved?
It's very fun analogy, I guess. And like especially making the volume cover, like Takei was really into this idea, or it was well received, or I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. I like it.
Oh yeah, and then there's also a line on the page before that is like, life itself is a battle, and like the harder you work for happiness, the more unhappiness there is. So I wonder if that also kind of plays into the anticlimax.
Yeah, they just kind of they don't. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
That How is like, well, I'll just eradicate the human race, because things are going to shit anyway. But it's like, well, then
yeah, he's working so hard for his happiness that he's going to ruin everyone's happiness, basically. Yeah. Where Yo is just like, just chill out, dude, and he's like, okay. There's more than that, obviously, but it's just being reductive can be funny sometimes, but as long as it's recognized as a joke. But Yo has a little chat with Amidamaru, a name that I have not said this reading. Man, I had so many dumb complaints about this series back in the day. Like, I was like, oh, the Amidamaru stopped being a character. Or just like, I don't know, I remember feeling like with the patch invasions, like the first two fights felt so brutal. And then like at a certain point, they sort of became secondary. Like there was like a very clear joke one. I don't know, but now it's like, I don't know, just dumb, bad me, fast me. Same dude who made the fairy tale tirade. Just ignore him. He's a dumbass.
You're like, the first two fights were so brutal, and I'm like, those were the least interesting ones for me.
Unfortunate. Yeah, no, they didn't feel that way rereading it, and they literally got a rest halfway through. So
there's another page here where it's like, I'm getting kind of like the Jujutsu Kaisen and Shaman King like overlap feeling of like going through them at the same time, where Yo is like, every man dies sooner or later. We're not fighting to prolong the inevitable. We're fighting so that when our time comes, we die the way we're meant to die. And like, that's kind of big motivations for certain characters in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah. And yeah, no, it is fighting to live, not to die is always something I think is cool.
Yeah.
Faust. Sorry, I'm never gonna live it down. Fuck, let it go. I don't think. No, I'll.
Faust is the next Nen Show meme.
But anyway, so yeah, we get the flashback for Horo with the Dom, or they call her Damn Girl, basically. I forget what her real name was. He killed her apparently. Which I don't know. I always think about that trope, but it's sure, but yeah, basically we get the flashback.
You're right. I also liked how in the flashback, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But I like how, in the flashback, she calls him Horo, and he's like, he doesn't seem to be super on board with it. But then like after she dies, like he's introduced to the series as Horo. So it's like, that's when he kind of leaves that identity behind and, kind of adopts this new name and like suppresses that part of himself, I guess.
Yeah, well, because like how he frames it is Horikyu is the one who I'm probably butchering that, is the one who killed the girl, basically, who I don't, Damco is awkward and I don't remember her actual name. I can't find it. It's Kororo. There, I could just call her Kororo because it turns out that when she died, she became Kororo and she's been there the whole time and she's been waiting for him to figure his shit out.
It definitely recontextualizes back in the arc where they're traveling and he goes off on his own. Well, like he says something about like Lyserg's spirit being cute, and then she gets all sad and leaves, and then that leads to all the stuff with him fighting the bear. And
but it's how said, like, I know the girl you like, she's dead, she's been dead for years, but actually not really. She's, well, yes, still really, but she's a spirit and she's been with, for sure, yeah. But yeah, another thing, or go on. Sorry,
I'm like, we might have the same idea.
I don't think so. I'd be surprised. Go ahead, because I'll explain where mine came from. But
I was just gonna say that I found something really interesting in this backstory as well. That it's like, here is Horo, who is, the character who predominantly is like carrying across the whole, like being one with nature and, respecting the environment and like the elements and stuff like that. But like one of the key figures in his life was someone who was connected to like a dam being built and like destroying the environment and villages and more kind of modernization. So I just thought that was a neat kind of contrast between the two.
It definitely goes back to the environmentalism stuff that you were interested in at the start that kind of became secondary. But no, it definitely it's definitely a through line with Horo. Well, another thing. So I reread an essay. Why didn't I write down what the essay was called? Lost in Translation by Lara Boroditsky. Basically, it's she researches, or a lot of her work has been on how language affects thought. And she has some really interesting points. I want to bring it up in a video I want to do on manga, because my observation is sort of how like manga is made to be read the same way that Japanese text is read, and not just backwards how English text is read. So it's more, and she has some real, and one observation she had about accountability that I thought was interesting is how like, so there was a comparative experiment, I guess, done between different cultures. And so imagine if you saw a video of someone taking a needle and popping a balloon. Both Americans and Japanese people would say this person popped the balloon. But then apparently something about how I'm butchering it, which is why I recommended the essay. If the balloon was popped by accident, because Americans are very concerned with accountability, right? Like we'd be able to say like, oh, this person accidentally popped the balloon or something. But apparently in Japanese, that's not the case. If it's an accident, it's harder for them to recognize who caused the accident, because they just see it more as just a thing that happened rather than like something that someone did on purpose or not. So what I realized after reading that and comparing that, because I feel like that's kind of like a trope of basically where the character goes like, I killed this person who died accidentally, right? Like with Bleach, right? Ichigo's mom died and he blamed himself. Right, but it was when so I don't know. It's like, but in this case, it was very much an accidental death. But Horo said, I killed her, right? So I don't know. I was just thinking about how, like, to a Japanese audience, considering like what I just learned about accountability, like how language affects perception of accountability, like. It would, because I feel like there's like a disconnect, because even with accidents, an American would be able to tell like what accidentally caused something. But with Japan, if it's more about causality and randomness when it comes to accidents rather than like the people involved, then I can see how like obviously like even a reader would know, oh, this death was caused by accident. It's no one's fault necessarily, right? But then like I don't know, like Horo putting his guilt out there and and accounting himself out of that guilt, I feel like that would read slightly differently to that audience. So I was just thinking about that trope and how like I feel like I've seen, especially on 4chan, I've seen people complain about that kind of thing. But then, like I said, after reading that essay, it's like, oh no, there's actually like a cultural thing going on here. So that kind of helped me see that a bit more in this
and
conflict.
Now I'm connecting that to Kisniver and Maki with the whole
that did the same thing, right?
Yeah, because she blames
same
herself
trope there. Yes. Right. So yeah, I'm just that's a potential of how it might be read to someone who is more grew up being fluent with Japanese and thinking in that way. So yeah.
For the record, I'm going through Kisniver on a rewatch now. That's why I brought that up. Just
out
of nowhere.
For sure. It makes you're always going to be connecting things you're going through at the same time. Oh God, it's really bad. Probably the worst for me is I was reading The Sound and the Fury, a very important literature book, and except what would happen is I'd read some of it after like going through something else, and like my mental image of what the characters look like is being affected by the other thing. So it doesn't really work if I'm watching like fucking old ass Disney Mickey Mouse shorts with rubber hose animation or fucking reading kaiji. Like, this is not a book that Fukumoto's art style fits. I'm like, I'd read a bit and I'm like imagining the characters with Fukumoto's art style. I put it down. I'm like, no, I can't do this right now. Like, I need a mental palate cleanser to like get in the mood to read the book. So yeah, it's just that's how your brain's gonna work, connecting things.
Yeah, I think I had an experience kind of like that. Like in high school, I read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, and
Yes.
like I think I had already gone through Death Note at that point, so I was like, oh, there's like, oh, okay, and I made like a little ramble video that I think is still up on this channel.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yeah, the or was that one of your oh yeah. Yeah, okay, that's yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. But yeah, Kororo's been with him the whole time, and you know, he's finally able to accept, you know, his true self and his true name. Again, pointing out names are important to Ainu people, so like him rejecting like his actual, like the person who killed, you know, his true name is also like a murderer, right? So but you know, so by accepting his you know, truth, his true identity, he's also able to get stronger for it. So yeah. And also she's cute. Like there's just like this is no time for this nonsense, and he's just like, you know, ... ellipse, and she's just hugging him, and there's hearts, and it's really cute. Yeah, then we get the joke fight with the chameleon guy, kind of a breather, where Detective Sherlock Holmes asks deduce where he is, and also Obucho can read minds.
Yeah,
and just destroys him.
that kind of that feels like I'm thinking of like power systems that are very like fleshed out, and like, oh, we have to deduce like why did this character do this, and like what was the powers, the sequence of events here, and it was kind of like that. But yeah, it's like, I got it. No, just kidding. But we got it.
But yeah, then we find out that so the mind reading is basically when one of the people feels lonely, then like their desire to connect with other people becomes their ability to read minds, which ironically makes them even more lonely. Right? So like, but then we also find out that when they're no longer lonely, they lose that ability. Right? So Anna losing that ability, like, you know, Yo was able to make a human connection with her and make her not feel alone anymore. So that's why she was able to lose that power. You know, so how and Obucho being able to feel the, you know, still have that, they're still lonely, right? So, but yeah, then we get the Ren versus Nechrome grudge match, where you know, Ren says he's planning to bear any hatred that he, you know, takes on without paying it forward as his way to end the cycle of hatred.
Yeah, I'd say this was the other fight that I really liked from this reading.
Okay.
Yeah, there was like that one line of like, you know, it gets countered later by Yo that like you fill the hate in your heart with love, but you know, he has Ren has a line like, you kill the hate in your heart by suffering. Like, you don't suppress it, you confront it and deal with it. Yeah, I definitely think like overall, I think Ren's growth as a character probably makes him my favorite.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have a specific favorite, but I definitely think like the cast as a whole is like really strong. Like I think the only one who I think fell off a little bit for me was probably Lyserg. Where I don't know, something about it. Like if I just, you know, if I were to rank the main five, he'd probably be the lowest of them. I'm not sure if he'd be like my fifth favorite, because Anna's really good. So I don't know that, you know, so I don't think he'd be, I don't know where I'd rank exactly if I put them in order, because I just didn't feel like putting them in order. But, you know, I just, it's got a good cast.
You know, speaking of characters, like when you were talking about Faust and like, oh, I think he makes a better antagonist than a protagonist, which I agree with. Ren is an example of like, I think he makes a better protagonist than an antagonist, but he is also a good antagonist. Like Yo even says it like, you make for a pretty good villain, you know, or a pretty cool villain.
No, yeah, Ren is really good. Yeah, I agree. Because and he does have like, again, he's got the edginess and the softness that he's sort of like. There's they talk about love, and he's like, hey, maybe sometime you'll start a family, and Ren gets all awkward and ooh, he's blushing, and then we find out that yes, he doesn't. He's actually I think as far as chapter 300, he's the only one aside from Yo who has a kid. So, so yeah. At least that's, because at least if Joko and Lyserg have kids, we haven't seen them yet. Or I haven't seen them, I don't know. And yeah, then we get the 292 color pages. That's just the full-on, Princess How, Dragon Quest,
Let's go.
I would say the designs themselves aren't very evocative of Dragon Quest, but like some elements, like Yo having that the circlet, that's very he's the hero. So I just think about it. Dragon Quest is pretty, it's a pretty important fantasy property, so I tend to think about it. I've also played 4 games and they were good. So we get to fight against Talim. I guess his thing was that he muted his feelings, so he was overcome by Joko, who's the one panel with was it this reading or was it before with him crying in front of the mirror back when he was he had no hair and was still in his violence mode basically. So I don't know, him confronting that suffering and feelings, I don't know, it fits as a contrast. This is definitely, as far as the later fights go, one of the ones I wasn't as into. So
I mean, looking at the art style, this feels like one that was drawn after. But maybe it was just it's hard to tell what chapters are fully new and drawn or versus the ones where it's some art is tweaked here and there, but it's the same.
Really, I could
layout.
not tell you at all. I have some vague memories, but again, I'd have to do a full comparison, and I did not feel like doing that for the reading.
I think this fight in particular, I think kind of hit me because normally in a weekly chapter, it's whatever happens in the last page is going to be where the first page starts. So you might get some repeat lines, but in the Joko fight, the one chapter ends with I guess that means it's my turn. And then page 1 is after all, I haven't had any time in the spotlight yet. So it's it just flows into the next one.
Yeah.
So it's if you're reading it in a volume, then it's right next. It's not there's no week break. Well, I don't know if this was even serialized.
It might have been because the Kazenban edition was serialized in another, not in Jump. It because as far, if I remember correctly, the rule for Jump is that if the series is over 100 chapters and they end it, then it could be picked up by another magazine or probably one of their other magazines specifically.
Yeah.
Right. I think 2 examples are Black Clover and Hunter x Hunter, where those have both moved to Jump Plus because they can't, their release schedule can't work with the weekly manga, right? So and both of those are manga that are over 100 chapters. So yeah,
well over 100.
Very much so, yes. But anyway, so we get Yo versus Silva, and which very much feels like a sort of passing of the torch, where Silva's putting his all against Yo as a, I don't think they're directly related. They're both related to How, sort of, and they both had the goal of dealing with How in a sense. So Silva sort of passes his will on to Yo in a sense. It's very comparable to the Horo fight.
I like the chapter cover for it where they're back at the tree where they fought.
Yeah.
I just wish that I thought Silva was an interesting character.
Unfortunate. Yeah, see, as far as again, I guess thinking about other series, a possible fight, a fight I could see happening that's kind of like this would be Luffy versus Shanks. Hypothetically, but I feel, I guess I kind of thought of if we do get Luffy versus Shanks, it's probably going to be really good, but it's not, so I don't know, just unfortunate, but this was still fine. I thought it was good, but also I guess even think about it, it's kind of like the Horo fight, but that one was also just had a lot more things going on, so with the flashback, so yeah, I don't know, didn't do it for me. Wait, now they go to space with Rutherford.
Yeah, I completely forgot that I didn't read the Death Zero one shot that's in here.
Yeah, I did go back. I didn't read it at first, but I did go back and read it. It was fine. It sure is. I don't have much to say about it. I'm sorry. And yeah, another thing, I for some reason I think I was really bothered back in the day about aliens being involved. Maybe because I thought it took away from the fantasy element, but now it's
I thought it was a person who is pretending to be an alien.
Yes, but in the flashback, Rutherford explains that there was an alien that that technology that's why the patch was a mixture of alien technology and their shamanistic traditions. Basically, that's how they were able to make the Oracle pagers and in general like start the shaman fight. So I mean, Rutherford themselves. I forget if it was a guy or a girl.
Well, I remember
girl?
being confused because like I think Ren initially at one point like referred to her as like a girl, and I was like, how can you? Like, I think it was like that was the reveal, but like somehow Ren knew beforehand. I don't know if that was a matter of just like
translation,
how like pronouns in English,
yes,
and how people
Japanese,
refer to other people.
Yes, we talked about that. Like, I remember Danganronpa was one example where, I just remembered, but and they translated it in a good way, but like it's definitely hard to do, generally speaking. So
yeah.
But yeah, they nullify, or Yo is able to nullify the gravity, and they're able to overcome Rutherford, and but not in time, because Hao has become king. And that was just a really good 2-page spread of just Hao's we bear witness to the awakening of the king, and just the shadows, and it's, ooh. Takei's art is still good, even though, like, of course, I'm sure, various things were redrawn here and there, but like it's still either way, it's good. And then there's just the hopelessness of just like, oh, I always said that we'll find a way somehow, but I just know that we won't figure this one out, and just like, oh, fuck. And Hal's just killing fucking everybody, like he doesn't care anymore. Never did. But yeah, we enter the topmost stratum of the Great Spirit. Yo and Hao have their talk, like Yo talking about how, like, I'm not the biggest fan of people either. And of course, there's no future if there isn't life.
I did also, just because like I've been interested in kind of the environmental aspects of the story, and like in that conversation when Yo's like, Grandpa once told me that humans are like cancer cells, and about like killing the host they rely on for life, and it's like a shot of Earth, and it's like this is very relevant in current times.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's especially.
I mean, it has been for.
Oh, for sure. No,
decades.
I was gonna bring up X, the Clamp manga, is also very much brings up that idea, and it also started it at like around the same time of like the late 90s. So so it's definitely been a social pressure for a while now.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's still relevant, unfortunately. So yeah. For sure. But yeah, in a way, like how kind of maybe even how defeats himself in a way. I was thinking about, because like he brings Yo in because he's lonely, and it's like, well, I'll talk to my brother, the person that in this life I was born into the world with, and then everyone else comes in, and then they get a little fight. I don't want to check something. Hold on, because now I'm thinking. Oh my god, yeah. See, they attack him. Yo summons the spirit of Earth. Yeah, Yo never launches an attack, I don't think. Because Hao does his oversoul.
Yeah, and Yo's just kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, because then he does a shitload of attacks of just. Well, I thought it was interesting because like obviously Rutherford was gravity, but Hao is the universe. So he has comet, the sun, ice age, volcano. Like he's like they even mentioned that in space temperatures can fluctuate heavily. He's just he throws everything as supernova, and they're just like, oh man, that was rough. But yeah, I don't think, or no, wait. Yeah, they're team up and they're about to throw an attack together, and then Manta comes in with the train. Yeah, Yo never launches an attack at Hao, which is just, it's like, well, how many fucking battle shonen out there does the main character never attack the main antagonist? Like, hello? Yeah. That shouldn't be real. So like once the author brought that up, I had to like keep an eye out myself, and I was like, yeah, that's very interesting.
I also liked how in the final fight, like, it being like the 5 elements, and so like how the powers in the fight, like, how does a solar flare, but like Ren blocks it with a magnetic field, and like, the Earth's magnetic field protects us from solar flares all the time, and like, just like different things like the Ice Age, meteors, it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was also going to point out how like it's not unusual for series to like Like, because I think some examples I can think of, like, because obviously with Naruto you have the war arc, and you also have a lot of characters from the past coming in some fashion. In that case, there's also dead characters because of Edo Tensei. But even like right before the war arc, you have like the two guys from the Wave Country arc coming in, and so forth. But then like some other manga like Ushio and Tora or Violence of Hamelin, you have these big final arcs that have like everyone comes in. I think Dragon Quest Dies Great Adventure does it, and so but I kind of like how this arc does it, where it's like everyone comes in, but it's like it's not to fight in a big war. It's to talk. It's to talk how out of killing humanity, basically. And you have like literally like past characters living and dead coming in, like a fleet of cars of the X-Laws. Obviously the train that Monta was on. Jian comes in, like everybody's here, and they're all talking about how they want to be with Hao, and they don't want him to be alone.
Yeah, and you get like Joko's parents, Lyserg's parents. So it's like a whole thing of like family and stuff.
Yeah, Anna, you get his mom comes in, who again, the guilt, the grief, he wasn't able to protect her. There's also a couple remix chapters, like of course the Princess Hao one, but also there's the I like the one of Hao going around and collecting his minions, basically. And we sort of see what their lives were like before, and like they're all suffering and in difficult situations, especially fucking Opacho, who is literally just like a starving child abandoned to die, basically. And it's like, yeah, you could see why these people would hate humanity and the world, right? So
yeah,
the one thing I swear I remember it, because Hao's mother comes in. Hold on, let me look through the. Oh, that's right. There was there's a flashback. Yes, okay, never mind. She slaps him. She does the legendary left like Anna. So, I had to skip ahead a bit because I was like, I remember that. And I was like, wait, hold on. That did happen, right? So yeah. But yeah, it does. We get a brief cutaway where we see the future with Ryu hanging out with Hana. See Joko and Lyserg. Everyone's adults. They're big. Horo.
Yeah, I think... I was gonna say,
ahead.
like, I like the post time skip designs. I think a lot.
Yes, especially I don't. For some reason, Ren having like he's really grown up. He has 3 spikes now instead of just 1, and the long hair is also a vibe.
Yeah, I like how Ren's kid comes out first, and they're like, "How did you shrink?" And it's like, "No, that's not Ren." Also, his post time skip design is very good.
Yes. I was also I had to look it up because I don't think they mentioned it, because it was like, oh, light hair and red eyes, and I was like, it's a manga, I don't see that color. I had to look it up, and it's like, oh, Jian, huh? Okay, I wouldn't have seen that. Yes,
okay. I didn't know what they were referencing.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, is because the dialogue made me feel like, oh, I should know which character it is based on the design, but it's like light hair and apparently red, like which character? Quick, Mathwiz pop quiz. Which character had red eyes? That's a girl. Like, was it one of the Hanagumi? Which one of them have red eyes? I don't know. It's black white manga, so it didn't come to mind immediately. So I just looked it up and I was like, oh, it was Jan. Okay. Which makes sense. They're similar ages, so well, and that's the other thing that confused me, is because they say, oh, his name starts with an M. I still don't understand what that was how that's supposed to tip me off to Jian, right? Like, her name doesn't start with an M. Does her? I don't know what I'm supposed to think about that. Why they would highlight that? So maybe it actually, you know what? I'm wondering if it actually might have to do with the. Oh wait, isn't it Tao Men, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that maybe there's like some similar, like something about the kanji or the symbol with Jian's name, like I don't know. I'd have to. I don't know. But yeah, we go back to with the flashback with Hal. The legendary left. Even Yo's like, I can feel his pain as a twin. But she hugs him because just. Mommy issues, and no, he gets over his loneliness, and like they point out, it's like, yeah, you haven't been able to read thoughts, have you? And yeah, he decides that like he'll put the pin on destroying humanity until like he's gonna see how they live first, and they're trying to live good lives and make the world a better place in their own small ways, and we see Yo and Anna as adults, and they're big, and he's got long hair.
Shout out Yo for or what was the word I was going to use? I don't know, just like the notorious Shounen dad haircut where it's like oof.
But yeah, like they've grown, they haven't changed. We got Manta's monologue again. I grew half an inch. And then I like when the series ends with color pages, like the last page goes from the black and white into the color, and then you have the last 4 pages fully in color.
Yeah.
The journey will outlive us all, and then Hao is able to reconnect with Matamune finally. I think they even have a line about cats being attracted to lonely people, which is like, his first friends. The Shaman King Hao is, finally able to reforge that connection, and nice wholesome ending. I guess also there's a connection you can make between Hao and Horo, where they both lost someone they love, and but obviously Hao went into a very dark place for it. I guess in general, actually, maybe not even just Hao, but even like just Lyserg, and I guess it just factors in the cycle of hatred where he just paid forward his hate instead of just taking it and paying forward love instead. So yeah, we did it. We finished another manga.
How are you feeling about it compared to going into the discussion?
I think I feel mostly the same. I did like no big like reveals or not reveals, reassessments or click moments, I think. In comparison to the last reading where like talking about it, I was like, oh, but I still feel like I still think it's a good manga. I'm glad I reread it, and I'm looking forward to reading more. I just feel like, it's just missing something for me personally to like really click with it, enjoy it even more. But it's still, and again, I really like the way you said it in your tweet where it's like, I would absolutely recommend it to someone because like, just because I didn't respond to it strongly, like there's stuff in here that people resonate with. I could see them resonate. Like I know some people who have resonated with it. Right. So, my personal, like, I don't like this. I'm not emotionally as invested in this as much. Doesn't extend to other people. So, and that's why I always try to like, myself and hope of other people is instead of just like listening to the people online or just general audiences, especially with Naruto and Bleach, it's huge. Those were huge for me, and you as well. Just like I just would rather make my own judgments on things than just assume something based on a consensus. Right? Just because like my response isn't going to necessarily match the that consensus. So, vice versa, like, just because, someone's listening to this and maybe they haven't read Shaman King and are just putting on its background noise, it's like, don't let my relative lack of like emotional investment deter you from reading it because it's good, so yeah. All right. So, we're not doing an arc ranking because there's
how would you?
How exactly? There's like I like it's just not really divisible into arcs in the way like even if we tried it's like it's just not this. That's not the structure of the series, right? So but we can do fights and characters. So which one do you want to start with?
Let's do the fights because I don't have a full 5 that I could think of. Yeah, so we'll end on a strong note with the characters.
And I'm not ranking them. I'm just not as interested in that anymore. But yeah, let's see. As far as fights go, I think honestly, I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but it's definitely the one that I got the most out of as far as just like it surprising me. I think was Funbari Hot Springs versus the Icemen, which I talked about it back then, where I just thought like. I thought it was interesting. It did bore, it did some cool things that I didn't expect, and I got things out of it, and I thought it was really neat. And so that was a good one. As far as other fights go, like early on you have I think Faust versus Yo, and then especially paired up with the follow up with Yo versus Ren. Like I talked about how I think those fights are interesting together because Yo does with Ren what Faust did with him. As far as like unnerving him and rattling him. And so those were some cool fights. Aside from those, I think the only other one I feel like I could reference is just Horo's fight this reading. But even then, I feel like it's less about the fight itself and more about just like the flashback and the context it adds to Horo's character. So it's hard for me to say like this is a good fight when like the antagonist kind of didn't factor into it much at all, I guess, aside from just that he's enabling this thing for Horo and helping him to, so it, like right where at least, where Faust at least like he has his own contrasts with Yo and Ren have their contrasts and like the Icemen especially had their stuff going on. So it's like that all that, like in those cases, both sides of the party added to the fight. Where with the Horo fight, it could have been done with any of the I mean, not really. Like it had to be this one specifically, but like I don't know. It just you understand what I mean. I think.
Yeah.
But like it was still good, but like comparing it to those other three fights is like eh. But yeah. Anyway, how did you feel?
I think the other one that I'd mention that you didn't was I really liked the conflict with like Horo and the bear.
Yeah.
Was it Apollo? But yeah, because I remember like going
It
through
was
that
Apollo,
reading.
yes.
And
I didn't think about that as a fight actually, but no, that was really good actually.
Yeah, like it was one of those kind of arcs kind of thing,
Yes.
like a little side tangent. And I was like not expecting it to be that good. So I feel like that really like endeared me to Horo as a character a lot. And you know, obviously it involves like the environmental stuff, which was an aspect of the series I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But aside from that, you already mentioned Yo versus Ren and Yo and Faust. Those were kind of the ones I
yeah,
had
and
in
obviously
mind.
like a lot of the fights were perfectly good. It's just I don't feel strongly enough about them to rank them alongside those three. I did forget about Apollo versus Horo. That one actually deserves a mention for sure. Because yeah, I guess to go into characters, I don't see. It's like I don't know who my favorite is because I like Yo, I like Anna, I like Ren, and I like Horo. I like maybe Horo is a standout because like the stuff we get with him is just really really good and are some of the highlights of the manga. But also like Yo has just such a cool vibe. You know, Ren, his growth is he has so like and just so many little moments of that is really cool. And Anna's just she's the strongest. She's the best, right? So it's like I really like all those four. Very good picks. After that, Joko is fun. Jian, I had my rant last episode about how I just like she's just very specific. Like I guess as far as like her big character stuff, is fine, but I it's the small stuff with her of just like her like I don't know, she's cute. I like her in her big old dress. She's a little cute. Leave me alone. Ryu again, he had like him going from just like the delinquent dude to he's just a cool guy. Like just the hair is very fun. You know, so and then Lyserg. I guess I just don't feel as strongly about Lyserg. You know, so Monta was cool in the first arc in particular. Like especially like him getting the sword for Yo was cool. Yeah, I guess that's the other thing is like a lot of the characters that I can think like I'm thinking of now is like Amidamaru, like they have their stuff earlier on, and then they just kind of like you know he has like a conversation with Yo in this last reading, right? So it's like you know oh yeah he was cool in the first reading, but yeah, so I just feel a little less strongly about them because they're just not as central to the story. But
yeah, I kind of had a realization while you were talking that you know you had mentioned it earlier as well that like Ryu's kind of progression from like villain of the week sort of like boss guy to like you know one of the main sort of supporting characters I thought was really cool. What I realized while you were talking was that like I feel like around the last time that I was like invested in like his progression as a character was probably around the time that like the jokes with his pompadour stopped, because like then I think he's less of a featured character. Like he's still there, but you know it becomes about like the five
favorite character
warriors
Ryu's hair. Second favorite character Ryu. Also I forgot to mention Hao, who he's very like obviously he's like the antagonist and he's very central and you know I think he's got some cool stuff. He's definitely secondary to a lot of the protagonists, or he's you know I definitely would rank him under a lot of the protagonists, but you know as far as the villains the antagonists go he's definitely the standout for sure.
But yeah, I think I kind of agree with you that like I have a pretty clear top four that it would be, you know, some variation of Ren, Anna, Yo, and Horo. And then like the fifth one, it could be a toss up, like, you know, I did like Ryu quite a bit. It maybe Joko, because Joko I thought he had a really good arc. Didn't particularly care for Lyserg all that much. I guess Marco was all right.
Yeah, Marco had some neat stuff, but
and like
yeah.
And like we said earlier, like if like Faust as an antagonist, I think had a case for being like top 5, but I just didn't like him as much as a prototype.
Yeah, I was gonna give an honor mention to Faust there because like he was so impactful in his first showing, and then he just kind of was like, okay, the gag on the plane where it's like, is there a doctor on board? And Faust like just looks over, like that was good, that was good. But then like I just I really wish I liked everything after that more. And it just
yeah, it's like they encounter him like falling out of the plane, and he's like, oh, I'll hit the ground and I'll rebuild myself, and then the next time we see him, he's
Anna's already like
ally.
enlisted him because he's useful to them more so than and then it's basically just like his final moment in the plant invasion with Eliza that I kind of don't vibe with, and then before that you have his fight with the Iceman, I think, where he's using his Eliza Oversoul, and it's like I don't know, this character just doesn't work for me. Unfortunate.
I was really anticipating some kind of like, not necessarily a rematch between Yo and Faust, but just like some kind of like encounter.
Because they were so antithetical
to
philosophically, right? But then Faust just chilled out, and which is very Yo, like that's very fitting to Shaman King. But like I don't know, he chilled out about the wrong things. I guess for me. Unfortunate.
And it's like, I'm sure his character still serves a point that I'm just like not seeing, but that's definitely like one of the I try usually not to like get ideas in my head about like where I want a story to go, because then when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh, but that was kind of one of those.
Yeah, well, I think it's like usually what it is with ideas and stuff is because if you get an idea and the story doesn't do something with it, that's one thing. At least with me, I tend to try and think of like in the sense of like one, that's just my idea, and two, if a story does something unexpected, then that can often be even like better in a sense. Like I remember, I won't give any examples. And the one I was thinking of that wasn't actually apply. But like in Faust's case, it's less like I think it, I would have liked it in his character went in this direction. Like I think I just would have like I it's more in my case of just like I just wish we got something more like like him being an ally is fine. I just wish he had more good stuff as a protagonist, at least as far as like especially the ideals of just me not vibing with being so hung up on someone who's dead that you literally don't even want to be alive. Like I kind of can't really agree with that. So it's just but anyway, I'll stop beating that horse. So I guess that about covers it for Shaman King.
We're just gonna be like podcasts down the road talking about a series, and that concept will come up. It'll be like, remember Faust?
I'm gonna be honest, it's not too far off from probably my least favorite piece of media ever, Danganronpa Killer, which is very like pro-death in a way that I do not like at all. Like it literally ends with like these two characters, we're gonna go off on a lover's suicide, and it's literally framed as positively, and it's like I hate it.
Danganronpa is about despair, right?
It's look. I read that at a point when I really hated Danganronpa 3, and reading that manga made me glad to see the Danganronpa 3 characters, like, because I would rather see them than these characters in this manga. So like, let that be an example of just how much I don't like, and I still don't like. I came around to Danganronpa 3, like it's fine. Danganronpa Killer. Anyway, we are way off topic. This is nothing to do with any show anymore. So next time.
Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. Today we're talking about Danganronpa Killer.
Yeah. Oh no, that's the worst possible fate. I mean, part of me wants to put someone else through that just because I want to see that I'm not crazy and or maybe I am wrong and dumb, and someone else, like, because last time I tried to read, I literally gave up. I literally like read like half of it and I was like, I fucking can't do this anymore. So it's
fuck it. I'll give it a shot. We can make like a stream out of it or something.
Let's fucking go. I think it's only like 2 or 3 volumes, but that would be something. Anyway, so next time we're reading Ayakashi Triangle as an emergency block. We'll be I forgot. We're reading chapters 1 through 69, which is the most fitting chapter. But again, I'd recommend reading the whole thing, just because it's only going to be 2 episodes, and we're going to be aware and talking about. I mean, again, like even with like Hunter x Hunter, we ultimately didn't talk that much about the later material, even though we both went into Hunter x Hunter being fully aware of everything. Everything up to the election in your case, where the anime ends. But but we still didn't bring up the later stuff that much, all things considered. So it might be the case with this reading. But you know, I'd still recommend just being aware. You know, just it's not a long. It's only like what 16 volumes, 15, something like that.
16, I think.
Yes. So yeah. But yeah. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.